All right, we're going to open up the Water and Sewer Commissioners meeting, November 13th, 2004, and it is now 7:45. We're going to start, we don't have any minutes of meeting to review right now, so we're going to go with the Systems Manager Water and Sewer Report.
Yeah, and Steve's been running around like crazy, so I didn't get the water one from him today. So I'll give you the monthly sewer report. So for the monthly sewer, for the month of October, we had 0.94 inches of rain. We had 4.11 million gallons of flow for an average of 132,640 gallons a day. Synagro hauled off 113,100 gallons. We wasted 154,315 gallons for an average of 4,977 gallons a day. We used 863 gallons of alum. We used 237 kilowatt hours of electricity, and the river flow average was 8.309 cubic feet per second. We did the fourth quarter toxicity testing. We passed that. I just got the results yesterday. So we performed the Synagro waste sampling. We sampled the PFAS and the influent, effluent, and the waste. We replaced the sludge pump in the number 2 SBR, and we had to remove the mixer from SBR number 3. The motor seized up on us on that one. That's the original motor from when the plant was put in, so it's a 20-year-old motor that operates in harsh conditions. So we have that at Ruby Electric right now, getting rebuilt. That's all we got for the sewer report.
Okay. You don't have the water report, you said?
No.
Okay. They want to update us on the Depot Street.
So the Depot Street project, so we're going to town meeting for the funding on that. Is that next week? Yeah, it's Monday. So I gave you a copy of the proposed article here. Overall, we're looking for $1.8 million for the funding. Some of that's coming from Chapter 90, some of it from ARPA, not the 1.8, but we have ARPA funds and Chapter 90 funds going towards the project, in addition to this 1.8 million. So this is to construct a new water main going up Depot Street. Right now it's undersized and probably quite tuberculated. We have a lot of discolored water complaints from that section anytime there's any heavy draws down the center of town. We isolate that right now to avoid water quality issues when we have heavy flows. And so if we know we're doing a fire flow test or something down here, it does throw off the flow test a little bit because it's taking away one of the streams of flow to that test. But we isolate it and it avoids causing problems on that road right now. Once we do this water main, then that'll eliminate that issue with the water quality, and we'll get better fire flows to the downtown area and the big projects that have gone on over here, the Blackstone Valley, the mill. The mill's now tied into us for fire protection as opposed to the pond, which was probably good timing because I don't know if any of you drove by and looked at that pond, but it was pretty dried up this summer.
Yeah.
So there was like no.
It looked like it was a little high down that area.
Right now.
And I thought, so maybe they're still pumping water out of that, but they're not.
No.
They're tied into us.
Yeah, they're tied to us. The level's only up because they finally opened up at White's Res after in October they opened up to so I'm sure your res is a little lower than it normally is.
Yeah, it's not nowhere near what it usually is though.
Yeah, so here's kind of a breakdown of the 1.8 million. So free cash is 350,000. That portion was voted on by the selectmen to approve using free cash for the portion of the sidewalks. So this project, like I said, it was originally for the water main. We didn't want to leave the main road going up to the municipal building with a trench patch and stuff. So at the end of the project, it'll be a full it'll be a full reclaim because the portion of road above the municipal building is not thick enough to do a mill and overlay. So we're gonna have to reclaim it. So we're going to do a full reclaim replace all the structures, the manhole frames and covers for both water, the sewer and the drain. The catch basins will get replaced. All the gate boxes and gate valves for the water will be replaced. So when we were looking at that, we looked at it, the sidewalks were in rough shape over there, so we wanted to pull the whole project together just to do it all one time, be done with it, and have it done right. So they agreed to contribute $350,000 from free cash to take care of the sidewalk portion.
And how far are they going up with the sidewalk, just back up to the town hall?
Yeah, we're just doing them up to where they are existing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not adding sidewalk, we're just doing what's there. To be honest, I don't know if there would be enough room on that road. Some of those houses are pretty close kind of right top section. Yeah. So the sidewalks, so like I said, the way this was all broken down, they're kind of earmarked for specific parts of the project and the funding sources. So if the sidewalks come in under $350,000, the money that's left over between the $350 and what it costs would go back to free cash. The retained earnings is for the engineering during construction and oversight. That's estimated at the $461,794.20. That's coming from retained earnings to cover that portion. I think they estimated high just based on our last contract that was in town, because we blew the engineering way out of the water just because of how long it took them to do the work. I think they averaged less than 100 feet a day of pipe, whereas the contractor before them averaged like 400 feet a day. So just that, 4 times the labor to put that in, and the amount of days, that's engineering oversight that we had to have for that additional days. And the engineers are not cheap, so if you get a company that's, this is part of the problem with the whole low bidder process that the state requires us to use. You take the low bidder, and if they're not as fast or not as efficient as the other companies, there's a lot of expenses that come from our side.
Save on one and goes to the other.
Yeah, it goes to the other side. And I'd rather have somebody that is good at putting the pipe in the ground, knows what they're doing, quick, efficient, and does it right, as opposed to somebody that has all kinds of issues and problems. And then we're paying on the other side. And like I said, engineering oversight's not a cheap line item.
No.
Right.
But you need it to assure that everything's put in per the standards, per the specs, what they design. Contractors are famous for trying to take shortcuts and put in less inferior products. So, our engineer on site was excellent. He was on top of the contractors all the time, making sure everything was in right. So that money there, like I said, I think they estimated high. I don't think we'll use that amount. Whatever's not used would go back to retained earnings. The water booster pump station account and the water main at North Street Bridge. Those 2 funding sources were when we did other projects. You can't just take that money out. Once it's approved at town meeting, it goes into an account. We didn't use all the funds, so those funds sit there until you have another project that's similar, or you can use those funds to carry over. So we're going to clean up those 2 accounts and put it towards this project.
Depot.
The depot street, yeah. So that reduces the amount we would need to borrow or use from retained earnings. So that accounts for $840,000 with those funding sources. The additional $960,000 would be coming from a borrowing, and that would be on the ratepayers to fund that portion of it. The theory was that the town looks at it as we contributed, $1.39 million towards this, plus the $350,000 for the sidewalks, plus it was almost 200,000, somewhere around 200,000. I think they earmarked 300,000 out of our Chapter 90 to do the culvert work that needs to be done. The culvert's not really part of our scope of work, but it's part of the project, because while we're doing this, we get a better rate. You're in the middle of all this coming up by, you got contractors there with equipment, they could manage that project more efficiently than hiring someone to come in just to do that project. So like I said, 300,000 I think was earmarked from Chapter 90 to do the culvert portion of this work. Again, I think that's going to come in under, so it'll be less Chapter 90 money that gets used. So overall, these are the numbers that we have. like I said, they figure they contributed the 1 point, almost 4. We're just gonna round up to 1.4 for ARPA, 300,000 from Chapter 90, 350 for the sidewalks. So they've contributed a significant amount of money, and I feel that it's, fair to let the ratepayers pay for some portion of it, since the main part of the project is the water main getting put in. So,
Right.
so
Did you
for
buy a pipe for that already?
yeah, so ARPA paid for the pipe. We paid for that in advance. That's most of it's sitting up at the town hall.
That's what I thought, I saw a pipe in
Yeah, it was. We put that out to bid earlier. It didn't need to go to town meeting for that because it's ARPA funds.
there.
So the ARPA fund portion of it doesn't need to be appropriated at town meeting. So we put that out to bid, and we wanted to get moving on the pipe just because the issues we ran into on these other projects where couldn't get pipe in time.
Right.
They were up to almost 52 weeks
Mhm.
to get pipe at one point. But they finally caught up, so we're almost back on track with how much it used to, the time it used to take. Not quite, it's a few weeks out, but previously I could call today to have pipe for Monday.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But,
Before that, it was 6 months.
yeah. So that's the breakdown on that whole project. I don't know if you guys want to vote to move forward with that, as presented here.
You could have a motion?
Yeah. So it's you two. I can't make a
You wanna
motion.
make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept as proposed.
All right, second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so that's that. So we got the bids in for that project. We put it out to bid, but we can't sign anything on that contract until we get their funds appropriated. So if this passes at town meeting, we'd be able to sign that, and they would start this project in spring, most likely April, May timeframe. Once we're out of the concern of freezing,
Frost.
because we're gonna have water main laid all up along the side of the road to provide everybody water while we're ripping out the old
Right,
one
yeah.
and replacing it.
Right.
So they'll have a lot of bypass piping. So once it's safe to put that in and get moving, that's probably when we would start.
They plan on working during the winter on that, or?
No, it shouldn't take that long. It's 4,500 feet of pipe,
Oh,
so it's a little under a mile, and you'd say it's 4,400 feet. If you had the contractor that could put in the 400 feet a day, that's so 400 feet, 44, so 40 days.
Yeah.
41 days. So,
mhm.
so they should have it all finished by spring or by fall for the installation portion. But then the way
You
we
say fall, we're in fall now.
no next year we've got to start in spring, so
Oh,
it
no,
would be the
okay.
following fall. But it should just be one construction season of
Mhm.
installation. But then the way we do the projects, we ran into it once before on Northwest Main where they wanted to pave right after we were done, and typically we want to wait.
Oh,
The best way to do is to wait to let it go through a winter, because when you get the freeze thaw frost, you get the
Some
frost.
settling.
It'll take care of all the settling you're going to get. So once you get through a freeze and thaw, usually your whatever settling is going to occurs. We do require them to test the compaction and stuff to make sure we're getting good compaction anyway, but it's always best to get that freeze thaw cycle.
Yeah, it's still always,
So the way we typically try to do it is we put a temporary trench patch to get through the winter. We did opt for a little better trench patch process, more like we had on this North Street and the Gilboa section, the first part of the project. The way they did that trench patch, it was probably road improvement as opposed to a trench patch.
yeah.
And as opposed to the way we did the second part of the project where the trench patches were horrendous. Made me feel like I should bring in my dirt bike and practice ripping through whips again. But it was horrible. I don't know how many times I drove up northeast Maine and saw people going up on the wrong side of the road just to
To
avoid
avoid
going
it,
into that
yeah,
into
right.
that trench work. But that was horrendous trench patch over there. So we put it in the specs to do it the specific way we had it on this first part of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure we don't end up with that through the winter again. And then we'll completely redo the road in probably the spring of 26. Yeah. All right, so that's that one. Project updates. We did not get the funding for the North Street for the.
No.
Yeah, we didn't get the Mass Works.
Mass Works? one?
Yeah, yeah. So we didn't get that funding. I know Bob and Matt had a meeting with the folks from Mass Works today to try to get an idea of what was against us on that and why we didn't. I guess we were very close to getting it. One of the issues was that we had an open Mass Works grant still going on, which is another cost that I look at saying this is a significant amount of money that we lost as an opportunity for a grant to do another project because of a contractor that didn't perform the way they were supposed to. Because this contract should have been closed out almost a year ago, and here we are. It's still open, and we're still fighting to get the thing finalized. So that's, like I said, one of the things that you go with a low bidder, and sometimes the lowest bidder doesn't save you money. I understand the theory behind lowest bidder, trying to get a job done for the least amount possible for your ratepayers, but it's not always the best. You end up with an inferior product, inferior work, dragged out. We lost, I can't tell you how many countless hours I've lost of my time just overseeing all this stuff. On top of that, we potentially lost another grant due to that. Actually, it was twice that we lost because we went for a round before that we didn't get, and then we just lost it again. Because we didn't have those projects closed out. So the projects...
It's mainly because the projects weren't closed out that we didn't get the grant.
It was a portion of it. The other part was that we didn't have enough skin in the game, so to say. The town didn't have any amount of money that they were kind of contributing to put forth to it. It's a big project, and they look at it as well. You're getting, all this upgrade done. You should probably be contributing something to it. So I think that they were looking for something along the line of 10%, and we didn't really. We had a couple $100,000. That was it. But
It's what, 13 million was
Yeah.
the price tag?
yeah, for the whole project, 13 million.
Can we apply for that again for North Street, or?
Yeah, we can apply for it next year. So it's all a matter of what moves forward with other projects. We also had some commitments to some funds from the two projects that have already gone forward. They kind of committed a certain amount of money to put towards the storage tank up at the top of North Street. So we'd have to look at what our options are as to breaking these two projects going on, or the project for North Street going on, whether we want to leave it as one big project. I mean, in my opinion, you want to break out a tank project anyway, because none of the people that are bidding on water pipe installation and road work,
They don't do tanks.
they don't do tanks. There's like 3 companies that do tanks.
Mhm.
So you're better off putting that out to bid, get the people that do tanks to bid on it, as opposed to a contractor trying to win road work, subcontracting somebody to do tank work.
Right.
And of course, they typically want to mark it up, so they're going to get some money in it. So you're better off just having the people that do tanks.
What kind of tank are we thinking of up there?
It's a pedestal spheroid, so it'll look like a golf ball.
It won't be like the one on Franklin.
No. So I don't like those. We have 2 of those. That's the 2 tanks that we have are both standpipes. The problem with the standpipe is you're only using the top portion. The rest is sitting there for fire protection, but there's no way to avoid it. It's all at the lower level, and it's not usable water. So, I've got a large amount of water that sits there, and I'm trying to get turnover. That's not really usable for the system, because we get down to a point where you lose pressure. We're not providing the pressure to the customers. So with a spheroid, we get more usable volume up higher so that the water quality stays better, you get better turnover, and you don't have to build as big of a tank.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have if we went with that style tank on Franklin Street, I'd have more usable volume. It's kind of my thought process right now on the Church Street tank. We have to rehab that tank. We have some money set aside for it, but I don't think it's going to be enough. The engineers came in with crazy numbers on doing the engineering.
I thought we just rehabbed that.
Yeah.
It's always the
You know,
case.
you always think it was a couple years
Time
Time
ago.
flies,
Yeah.
right?
It was a lot more than 20 years, Bob.
It was more than
I've been
20?
here 15.
Wow.
Goes by quick.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we need to rehab it, but if they're talking the numbers to rehab, if it's crazy numbers to rehab it, the tank was put in the early 50s, so
Mm-hmm.
you're at like 75 years on that tank. You know, what do you think the life expectancy is on it? It's in decent shape, but it needs to be rehabbed. And then how much do you think you're going to extend it with a rehab? And what do you think the cost is going to go up over the next 20 years in the price to put a new tank in? So
Right.
are you really saving money by rehabbing it as opposed to replacing it? And if we replace it, we can put a pedestal spheroid, drop the size down a little bit, we'll have more usable volume with a smaller tank. You know, it'll help some of the pressure issues up on the northwest main or southwest main.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of that whole area of town is a lower pressure when you get up into those higher areas. So, you know, my thought was go with a pedestal spheroid, maybe even go a couple feet higher just to gain a couple psi. 2.31 feet for every psi, but if we add a little height to it, get a little more pressure, and like I said, you can go with a smaller tank and have, because right now it's a 250,000 gallon tank, and this time of year going into the winter, we'll fill it up and then we wait 3 days before we turn the pumps back on to fill it up. So it sits there for 3 days before it comes down enough to turn the pumps on and get some turnover. I'd rather shorten that cycle up a little bit. You know, we'd be better off running,
A stagnant water.
yeah, you know, a smaller volume every day as opposed to, you know, turning over a lot to avoid water quality issues. We don't have mixers in any of the tanks, so you get stratification and everything. So there's periods that, you know, we have great water, fortunately. If we had water like down the road, we'd really have a problem. But because the water is such good quality, we don't have issues with that water quality based on the water age as much as most systems would. But
Yeah, we're very fortunate with the water quality in this town.
yeah, so I mean, it just best practice would be to put a more suitable tank up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my opinion. I'll start looking at it to find out a ballpark of what it would cost. But if we're going to be doing some bigger projects, it'd probably be best to do a project like that and roll it all into one, just so we can get some upgrades done that need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, that tank up there is all your fire protection for everything, you know,
And Glen Street up.
west from
Yeah.
from Glen Street that towards Church, and from basically where the cemeteries are on West Street, up west and around Rydell, which covers, you know, a lot of town assets. You know, the fire department, the highway department,
Right.
potentially a future police station up there. You know, it's a significant amount of town assets that you're going to want to have fire protection for. So, trying to think I get off track here. So the project updates, the site readiness, the North Street is all done. We're pretty much at 100% design. We're ready to go out to bid with that. Unfortunately, we don't have the funding right now, so potentially put off for a year. We'll see how things move forward, but I don't particularly mind the break because I'm already going to have Depot Street going on this summer, and trying to run two different big projects
Right.
is a lot to do. So the site readiness for Davis Monroe, that is we're probably around 50% right now. That's kind of taking a back burner, so it hasn't been progressing fast. We could have pushed it along quicker, but there was really no need at this point. So they'll probably be working on that to finalize that. Part of that project is to investigate additional sources. So we're gonna look to see if we can find another source of water. We originally were gonna look around the Davis Monroe area. There's some areas over there that potentially have some decent water. But one of the other sites that came up that they were trying to put into conservation land was up by Caswell Caves, at the top of Caswell Court. All that land up and back there. So as part of the Davis Monroe project, you know, that's a site readiness, it's for economic development. In order to add additional economic development in that area, we may need additional sources, just to make sure we have sufficient water supply for everything. So we're going to investigate water sources. They don't necessarily have to come from Davis Street in order to supply that. We might have to pull from anywhere else in town.
I think there was years ago, but I heard we had good water resources up on Franklin Street. But I don't know if we don't own any land up there, I don't think, do we?
Yeah, I don't think we own anything over there, but
I believe that water source is where that project is.
Cobblestone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough land in there that's left.
That was a good, real good water source I heard years ago. But I don't think we
It
own
was
it.
never added to our aquifer protection area.
Have we never added to it?
But like I said, we're going to potentially look at up at the top of Caswell Court.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage of putting a source up there is it's at a very high elevation. So if you can find good water, it's less head pressure to push against. It'd save us significantly on electrical costs for pumping water. Unfortunately, most of our sources are at the low points of town. We're trying to push through a lot of head pressure. So,
Well, that's another thing too. I heard years ago there was good water source up there.
up at Caswell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had heard rumors, so that's why we wanted to investigate it. We'll take a look at it. If it
Like I
makes
said,
sense.
it's just rumors that, but there is an awful lot of groundwater up there.
It's a lot of groundwater, but it could just be shelf water. So
Mhm.
if it's just shelf water, it's not really good for us. But like I said, we'll drill a couple wells up there and test wells and see what we get for water. If we get good water, it'd be a good spot to have a source that gets us away from our current sources. So if there's ever a contamination issue down at that area, you know, we don't take out all our sources. We have a backup. So it would be good to kind of spread it out a little bit, get them in different areas. So
Now, all that land that we bought on,
the mobile pipeline.
right now,
Yeah, mobile pipeline.
is there any good water sources on that, or?
Well, that land's connected to our primary well field, so
Oh, it is connected, oh, okay, so, yeah,
I mean we could go through the woods, and the land is all contiguous.
yeah.
It was one of the reasons we bought it. It was the issue I have with trying to drill wells any further into that property is you're getting closer to the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right.
what chances do you want to take on putting a well and starting to pull water from
From
where you have a landfill right upstream?
Yeah.
Not the best scenario that you want to look at. So, which again is why I want to kind of diversify and get outside of that area. Because all our sources right now are downstream of the
Mhm.
landfill. So, luckily, good quality right now. Even our PFAS levels are still below the new standards that they're putting out.
Oh, good.
So right now, we're still in decent shape. Our water down here, the wastewater discharge, the influent, effluent, we're below the standards. The sludge had one number that's not one of the regulated ones right now, but we had one number that was fairly high. Not extremely based on the numbers that they were testing too. But there was only one in the sludge that stood out.
That's on PFAS.
PFAS, yeah, PFAS. So I just got that result, and that's the one I told you I just got it. So I haven't gone through it to fine tooth comb. I skimmed through and everything looked pretty good for the numbers. So thank God, because I know that that's coming soon. That they're going to be putting treatment on the end of the treatment plant. So that pretty much wraps up all the projects. Well, we have the asset management on the water side that's still going on right now. And the lead service line letters just went out, so I know Colin gets a lot of calls from customers. I don't know if you two will or do, but
Yeah, I haven't got any.
Yeah, well, they just went out yesterday, so the calls will start coming. Between end of this week and beginning of next week, people will start calling. So those are on the service lines going into the house. We have a lot of unknowns where we didn't get into the house to see what they have for a service line coming in. So with
Yeah,
the
but a
new,
lot of that, you're talking about the lead. Yeah.
yeah, so with the new rules and regulations, we can't say it's no lead if we don't have either the customer telling us what their line is or us going and visually checking to see what the line is.
Yeah, but we still have lead goosenecks out there.
Right, so that's the issue on the
That's
town
an
side.
unknown.
All we have is lead goosenecks in town. We don't really have any service lines that are lead. But we can't say they're not lead if we haven't seen that they're not lead. Or the customer hasn't said, no, it's a copper line or an iron service. Some of the iron services, if you've got galvanized, that could potentially have lead in it based on having a lead gooseneck and water flowing through the lead gooseneck and then through an iron pipe where it could coat the inside. So that iron service could technically have lead in it. So until we identify that, they're requiring us to, list it as potentially containing lead. But once people get the notices that were sent out that all you were identified as one is unknown, whether or not it's lead, iron, copper, whatever. So then we could either go out and take a look at it, and then we can check it off the list, or add it to a list that says, all right,
I mean, you can look at it, but how are you gonna know? I mean, it's on the ground.
well, we look at what's coming into the house. So there's another round of grant funding, or it's not actually another round. They have money left, but we could potentially apply for some more money to do. See, they didn't approve it originally on doing the vacuum excavations, and that's what I had recommended in the beginning. They shot me down. Then they agreed to let us do some. So we did a dozen or so services that we went out and we vacuum excavated down where it's the town side and the customer side. And that's the best way you're going to determine what's there.
Mhm.
We'll know what's on our side and we'll know what's on their side in one shot. So I guess there's an opportunity to apply for some additional grant funding to go out and do some more of that so we can investigate. We had to come up with a plan as to what approach we would take to replacing service lines to eliminate any lead services, whether it be goosenecks or iron services that could potentially contain lead. Our approach was basically that our first the main priority that we're going to use is we're going to replace lines as we replace mains. So we already replaced everything down Gilboa Street. We already replaced everything on Lower North Street. If we move forward with Upper North Street, that's another mile and a lot of customers that have potential lead goosenecks. So we'll eliminate all those. We're doing Depot Street. Those are a lot that have potentially lead goosenecks. Probably a lot of iron services, at least main to curb. So we'll eliminate all those on that road. So we're taking an approach that we're eliminating a lot that could potentially have them. All the roads that have ductile iron already, U Street, Southeast Main, Glen Street, all the roads that we've already done cast iron main or ductile iron mains. A lot of the offshoots on North Street, Colonial, Pond Street, all those, North Village, that's all newer ductile iron.
Right, yeah.
So we know there's no lead goosenecks, no lead service lines. But if we replace the North Street going up there, then you've only got Prentice Court and Gilboa Court off of that could potentially have some. There's small sections, at some point we could just replace those. Once we do Depot Street, Brookside's already ductile, Franklin Street was already done. So, we do Depot Street, then there would be Martin Road would be left, and Railroad Ave would be left. Those are the only two. There's only like 3 or 4 customers on Railroad Ave. Unfortunately, they just paved it a couple of years ago, so if they didn't pave it, that would be one that I would be shooting for trying to replace. But, now we'll wait till the road gets a little
Oh,
rough.
forget about Depot Street, that one house on Depot that doesn't have a sewer connection.
I know what you're talking, yeah.
They're gonna put one in for that while you're there. I mean,
Well, we're not digging up any of the sewer. We can look at it, but we're not digging near the sewer, we're on
Oh,
the other
no,
side of the
no,
road,
right.
so.
I was gonna say that should be taken care of.
It would be wise to put a stub there if they need one.
Mm-hmm.
Did that pass Title V? Did that pass Title V? So, I don't know that anyone would want to pay to tie into the sewer if they
No,
have
but
a
I
working
hate
septic
to.
system.
Yeah,
I know you hate to
Dug
dig it up
completely.
again if something happens 5 years down the road. But I'll look at
I
that.
mean, it's a fairly new septic system, it's probably always passed Title V.
Yeah, that's. So do you waste the money putting a stub that has potential for I&I? I mean, we can look at it. That would be a change order to the
Mhm.
project because it wasn't included as part of the project. We'd have to look at that. So that, like I said, the lead service line is wrapping up. We don't have very much left to do on that. It's just finalizing the plan and how we plan on replacing. Like I said, our main goal is to replace the water main and then replace from the main to the curb, and it's only the customer side left. And while we're doing that, we'll
Well, I mean,
document
lead gooseneck would be on
our side, yeah.
anyways, so.
But if they had an iron service that had a lead gooseneck, that pipe should be on the list to be replaced.
Mhm.
We're not really responsible for the customer side.
No,
It's the customers that are responsible. You know, we need to make 3 attempts, I think, to let them know, hey, you really should replace it. They can still say, no, I don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Been drinking water for however many years. But, so like I said, the majority of what we have left for potential issues is North Street, Depot Street. Railroad only had a few customers. There's one newer one on there that's plastic pipe, I know that. Franklin was done. So Main Street would be the other big one. And you know, that we're potentially looking at some point with the highway barn or, you know, I've been saying it for years, that's my main concern because it's the main artery in town. Takes all our water from the wells, gets it to the tanks, takes it from the tanks to the system, and it takes it from this tank and sends it up to the other tank to supply the whole end of town. So we lose that Main Street line, we're in rough shape.
Mm.
So that's our highest risk in my opinion. So we will look at what we can do with that at some point. And the water asset management. Like I said, we did the sewer asset management. They came up with a list of stuff that we have for potential projects that we should be looking at. We're in the middle of the water side, so we're looking at all the assets on the water side, including all the water mains and what's our highest risk, and all the buildings, the HVAC, you know, everything soup to nuts. Roofs, just pretty much everything you can look at. And they'll come up with a list on what they recommend we should be replacing or budgeting for in the near future. At the end of the water asset management plan, they plan on doing a rate study. I told them to kind of hold off a little bit on the sewer asset management portion of it for the rate study until, I mean, they came in with a little bit, just kind of a rough estimate on what we need to look at. But because we're an enterprise fund, I mean, they're looking at what we had in retained earnings, and they're saying, oh, well, you know, you should use that now and do this. I'm like, wait a minute, retained earnings is both water and sewer, so you can't just say you need all those projects over here and wipe out every bit of money over here when we still have projects on this side we need to do. So,
Yeah, we can only take half of it out for water.
we could take it all.
Really?
You know, there's nothing that stops us from doing that. I know Jean has her buckets where, you know, she's got the system development numbers and stuff, but we don't have a lot of money in those. We keep using them for these projects. So there's not a lot of money tied up in that. And per DOR, we don't technically have those buckets. All that money is open and free for us to use. You know, we've all kind of agreed that we put it aside for a purpose. Let's try to use it for that purpose. So I don't have a problem with that. But in actuality, all that money is available. We could, if we had something happen on the water side, we could use all that money on the water side. Same on the sewer. If something happened over there. But you don't want to deplete all your funds. You need some in there for emergencies. And, you know, whatever's going on. We also don't want to have $100 million in there because that means your ratepayers have contributed to all that for no reason. So we got to keep the balance. We'll use some for the projects and work some towards future projects. So that's about where we stand with that. Like I said, they'll come in and do a rate study. They'll probably look at about 10 years out and say, all right, these are all the projects that you really should be doing. And this is what effect it's going to have on your ratepayers. This is what we recommend. So we'll see where we end up when we get that. That's about it for the updates. So, future agenda items. I don't know if there's anything either of you want to add to a future agenda that I can
I think
get on
we've
there.
covered it anyway, so that's.
Yep.
Anything that unanticipated that either of we had in the last 48 hours?
Nope.
Nope.
For me.
We kind of finished this building more or less.
Yes.
We have a little bit.
Looks great.
Yeah, we have a little bit more to do on the top sides here, but you know, something that we had discussed over
Yeah,
the
we got
years.
something. It looks really nice out there with the flag paint on.
Yeah, it came out
Yeah.
good. I give Steve credit for coming up with the idea, and you
Yeah.
know, then Steve and Josh both doing a great job. You know,
And the outside of that building hasn't been touched in 40 years.
yeah, as I say,
Yeah.
it's looked rough for a while.
Yeah.
Yep. Can't go wrong with the flags.
No,
Yeah,
no,
so-
it's real good.
Yep.
I think it came out good. You know, we measured everything out, did it per specs. You know, everything's ratio accurate, so it just happened to fit perfect with the palette that we had to work with, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's real good.
Yeah. You guys did a great job.
Came out good. I think those guys are proud of what they did, so give them credit. They did a lot of work to get that to happen.
Yeah.
So it was all in between, you know, doing their regular jobs. So
Yep.
we saved not contracting it out, getting work done, and you know, I think it came out better. I couldn't see paying a contractor to do that type of work.
No.
At ratepayers' expense, yeah. So I mean, we had to put paint on the building anyway, so
Yep.
you know, we didn't paint it all one color and then go in. You know, we sectioned it all off and painted what needed to be painted.
Right.
So it was just a matter of buying the different colors. So
Yep.
No, it looks real good.
added a little
Great
time
idea.
because they had to be a little more precise on the sections, but I think it came out pretty well. So.
Whose idea was that to paint the flag on it?
Oh, Steve's,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah?
yeah. Because we had started. We were like, all right, let's get the primer. We got to get everything set up. And he's out there. He's like, you know, I was looking at it, and size-wise, it looks about right to be a flag.
Yeah.
So then we started measuring it up, and it all pretty much worked out perfectly, size-wise. You know, the stripes are exactly 2 bricks
Mm-hmm.
wide. Everything mathematically worked out perfect. So.
It's good. It's real good.
Yeah, so I think it was a good idea. And, you know, glad he came up with it. 'Cause I think
Yeah.
it looks good. So now when I tell someone to come down to the office, I just go to the building with the big flag.
Good landmark.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, that's all I got. So we do adjourn this.
You want to make a motion to close the meeting?
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Let's see.
It's at
8:27.
8:27.
Yep. 8:27. I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.